If I could have your attention here in the deadline room and in the media center, we'll now start today's post-race media availability for the Toyota Save Mart 350. And we're joined by Brad Keselowski, driver of the number 2 Ford for Team Penske. And Brad, wild race out there, really long green flag run to end that race. Boy, you have to feel exhausted after a run like that, huh?
It was fun. We had a really fast Elite Support Freightliner Ford, and man, when you have a car that great, you really enjoy every moment of it. And today was a day I really enjoyed. I had the slip up there, got into Clint, and that really stank. But other than that, just an incredible race car and really a pleasure to drive.
Okay, we'll open the floor up here for questions. If you have a question for Brad, please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless microphone. We'll start over here and work our way around.
Brad, we kept hearing about how bad the tires were. How bad were those tires driving on them?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. But, this is the big leagues. It's not supposed to be easy to drive. The cars are incredibly difficult to drive. But that's part of what makes it fun, and I think exactly the way it should be.
Additional questions down here?
Donna Beth Wellman, Benicia Herald, Martinez News Gazette. Was there ever a time in there with the strategy? I was a little worried there with a little bit of the strategy. How did you beat that? Because it looked like it was putting you behind a bit.
Yeah, it looked like it was putting us behind, but we had such a strong long-run car that it played back out for us, which was great. In fact, I think we were hoping to catch a yellow and didn't catch it. If we would have, I think that would have been the race-winning move, but still, all in all, a great day for us.
Okay. Any questions from upstairs in the press box?
No questions.
Okay. Well, Brad,
Thanks, guys.
Good luck on your flight. We'll see you. If we could have your attention here in the media center, we'll continue on with today's Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series media availability. We're joined by Clint Bowyer, driver of the number 14 Cars 3 Ford for Stewart Haas Racing. Clint, that was a wild race out there today. I mean, cars coming in damaged, beaten up, dirt, rubber all over these cars. Would you walk us through the race from your perspective and the kind of battle it was out there for you guys?
Well, let's face it, short runs have never been my strong suit here. The long runs are, and thank God we got a long run there. Hell, I was out of tires. By the time I got done tearing the hell out of my car, I was out of tires. Those stages, I mean, obviously it's the first crack at it. That's what lends to tore-up race cars. You just, it's such a short stage. There's some technical, strategy that you got to try to play and get track position, and then now all of a sudden you're on, the bad side of tires, trying to hold guys off, and you're blocking. They're stacked up behind them, and it's just it's a recipe for disaster. And the 47 car down there, I just didn't see him and knocked the whole front end off our car. And somebody else I had a really good run on, and I thought they were going to give it to me, and they didn't. Brad spun me out. Yeah, one of them days.
One of those days indeed. We'll open the floor up here for questions. If you have a question for Clint, please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you.
Donna Beth Wellman, Benicia Herald, Martinez News Gazette. How was the aerodynamics in that car after it got torn up? And you still came in second.
Not as good as they were. I can promise you that. When it was really flaring, there was a huge hole in it. It was plowing terrible bad in the high-speed stuff. And then, I was just patient and tried to take care of my stuff. I mean, just do all my normal stuff that's always gotten me to be good out here. And thank God I got that long run and was able to lean on some of my expertise here, if there is any, just taking care of my stuff and babying it and not spinning the tires and being good on the back end of a run.
Good next to Bob.
Bob Hocker, CSPN. I know you need a win, but is it nice to see Harvick win at all? And did you get any sense that his team was frustrated too at seeing all the success?
Let's face it, you're not going to keep that team that's won a championship, won all these races in the last 5 years. You're not going to keep them out of winning the victory lane anyway. So it's not like I was looking at that team as one that I was going to have to try to point my way into beating for the chase. I mean, let's face it. Yeah, we got to win. We need to win in a big way, and today would have been a great win. But after everything that happened, I mean, to get second place is, I guess, really good, as a matter of fact.
Additional questions down here? There are no questions
Thanks,
in the press
guys.
box. Clint, thank you. If I could have your attention here in the media center, we'll now continue on with today's Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series post-race media availability. And we're joined by the team-winning owners of the number 4 Mobil 1 Ford for Stewart Haas Racing. We have Tony Stewart and Gene Haas. Tony won this race last year. This year you got to win the race as an owner and as a spectator. How was that to watch Kevin take that home to victory lane?
That was an awesome day. I mean, obviously, we got to see a lot of different perspectives. We started off the day with, Dale Jr. spinning through turn 11 there and getting Danica caught up in it. And she had an excellent start to the race there. So it's a little disappointing right off the bat, but, I think all 4 of our teams, at some point kind of battled some sort of adversity and, were able to work through it and get back to where we wanted to be. But, Kevin is one of those guys that, when he knows what the scenario is that he's in at the time, he knows how to maximize, the potential out of it. And, once the 78 car had trouble, I mean, it was just a matter of taking care of his tires and, making sure that if a caution came out toward the end that he, had been easy on his tires to where he had something to fight with to the end. So I thought he just ran a perfect race all day. Clint was probably the one that you get to see the TV monitor and see what they're showing, but you don't really hear what they're talking about. But I think Clint probably ran one of the most aggressive hard races of anybody all day. I mean, to restart after the second stage, 33rd, and to battle back with no trick strategy or any gimmick to get him back up there. I mean, he drove from 33rd to second. I thought was really impressive. And Kurt, a solid day, until he said he'd got off in 3A and thought he'd cut a left rear tire down, and he ran 5 corners there and it seemed like it was getting away from him, so he thought he had a left rear flat or at least tire that was going down, and decided to come in and pit, and still I think got his way back up to 9th there, so wherever we ended up, I can't see it from here. But anyway, he had a solid day as well. I mean, I think realistically, SHR was going to have 4 cars solidly in the top 10 today if they didn't have any drama. So pretty good effort for all 4 teams today.
Good effort indeed. Gene, this is the 3rd time that Stewart Haas Racing has had a 1-2 finish in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. How satisfying of a day was it for you?
I think Tony did a good recap of it. I kind of remember last year that was some real excitement. 25 laps to go, and Tony decides to pit on for no particular reason.
Keep in mind, I didn't decide that. That was decided for me.
But he comes back out, and 2 laps later there's a caution, and then you get overtaken by Denny Hamlin on that last turn, and then I was up there with some people, and I says, he's going to get him back. Coming around turn 11, and you did it, and that was really excitement. This was actually very comparatively a very calm race. I think that what we were worried about really was just the fuel economy. You never know when the tank runs dry, but I know he had 40 laps to go, and the cars should be able to do 41 laps. So I think we're 1 to the go, and so I think we were just kind of hoping that no cautions came out. A lot of spins near the end. And actually, this race kind of went our way, and it went the way the crew chiefs expected it, and we won it, which usually never happens.
Okay. We're going to open the floor up for questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless microphone to you. Bob, you've got to have a question.
Bob Hawkers, ESPN. For either of you, I mean, you start the year with the win in the Daytona 500, but hadn't won since. How badly did you need this win, especially maybe with some of the there's a lot of questions about sponsorship and lineup for you all next year.
I think the important thing is, with the way our series is laid out, I mean, having 2 of the drivers get their wins already at this point of the year and solidly in the chase, that's a very important deal for our company, especially from the sponsorship side. So, got great partners, obviously, and, to get Mobil 1 in victory lane this weekend was great. So that's big, and, our first year with Ford now, and we've won 2 races already this season, so I think that's a really solid effort. and shows how good a partnership we have with Ford right now. So, it's a big deal. I mean, for two of the 4 teams right now, I mean, they can start worrying about what to do to get ready for the chase, and having the ability to try different things to prepare for that. So that's a really important thing for our company right now. And I think we all expected that Kevin would have got it sooner than this, but there's just been some bad luck, some different venues that he's been really, really strong at, that we just had some weird and bad luck that have crept into his program. And Clint and Booga to be having the season they've had as a fresh driver and crew chief combination, I think they've had a really good start to their season as well. So I think there's a lot of positive things in the company, and the results haven't obviously always shown that, but at the same time, being able to sit on the pit box and see it a lot more clearly from a pit box than I could from my own car last year, it's I think there's a lot of things that we're excited about.
We'll go upstairs for a question.
Tony, this is Jeff Gluck from jeffgluck.com. After your comments last week, were you pleased that NASCAR let the race play out to the finish there, all green at the end?
Yeah, I definitely am. It's, last week's last week, and here it's so easy for cars to go off track here, and it happened all day long, and, a couple cars even spun out but kept going. So, there was a lot of opportunity that, you could have got that debris caution or whatever during the race, but it was nice to see that the race actually got to play out. And it was interesting listening to some of the Gibbs drivers and the gamesmanship they were playing of, they pitted and came back out and then immediately started screaming debris on the racetrack. So thought that was real convenient on their part. But, it's gamesmanship, and, they're smart of knowing how to try to play the game, but I'm glad NASCAR didn't bite on that one today.
Before we continue on, we're now joined by Crew Chief Rodney Childers. And Rodney, fuel mileage was part of the strategy today. You had plenty of fuel left to go in that Mobil 1 Ford. Walk through the final part of the race from your perspective. How nervous were you on the pit box?
Well, you're always nervous, but the biggest thing is just tires and knowing what we had. We had one set of stickers laying there, and a lot of guys had 2 laying there. So, if you would have got a couple cautions there in that last stage, we would have been in trouble. So, Kevin did a great job. We got our track position there and did a great job saving fuel, and everything just happened to work out. And, these races out here, sometimes it takes a lot of luck to be in the right spot at the right time, but we had a good car all weekend and was fast, and everybody did everything right.
Go to Kenny.
Kenny Bruce with NASCAR.com. Tony, speaking of the 14 team, other than the driver change, is that group a better team this year just because they've had another year together? And I know you've had to change, the manufacturer change and everything, but can you see them, because you were the driver last year, but when you look at them from the outside, does that seem like it's a stronger team this year?
I think so, from the crew chief side in particular. I mean, it's, your first year as a crew chief, it's got to be nerve-wracking. You're going and making decisions at these facilities for the first time, and I think to get a year under your belt and to have your own notes and to be able to go the second time around is a big advantage. So part of it is it's a little bit of taking a step backwards when you're switching drivers like that, but at the same time, I think it's got to give the crew chief a lot of confidence in his second year. So I think that outweighs it.
We'll go back upstairs, and then we'll come back down to the deadline room.
Jerry Jordan, .net and PRN. Mr. Stewart, we're halfway through the season. Do you miss being a lot of other stuff? Have you
Jerry, we lost you. We'll come back to you. We're going to come down here to the.
Mr. Stewart, could you? All right, let's just get this out of the way right now. Mr. Stewart is my father. When he passes away, then I take over the torch and I carry the title. But it's his distinct honor and pleasure to carry the Mr. part. I'm just his son right now. So.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, Tony, could you talk about being in the winner's circle for a second year in a row here at Sonoma, although obviously from a different position?
I would like to be here every year. And, I don't care what capacity you're in, you want to be in victory lane. So, as a driver or as an owner, it's still equally gratifying. And, I think it was probably more gratifying today knowing that we had all 4 cars in a position that could have easily been in the top 10 together, and that to me is even that much more impressive. Danica, if she didn't have any bad luck, she wouldn't have any luck at all, but she had a great start to the day, and even as much stuff that went wrong on their car, she kept digging all day, and I thought she did a great job. I think when you can get 4 cars in a position to be in the top 10 in a race, that's even more impressive than one single victory. So, I think I take more pride in today than I did last year even.
Go over here to Dan, then over to Jerry.
Hi, Dan Rusanowski, NBC Sports California. First of all, Gene, I'm glad to see that the SST worked from Baku to get you here. That's pretty good. Nice to see you. Very satisfying. Wanted to ask just the impact from all of you about the way that you plan for this type of race, with the difference in the tire adhesion this year, the fact that you have to have more stops. I remember Kurt Busch had a 2-stop win here in 2011. How that impacts and how the stage racing has impacted the way you plan for a road circuit.
I would say the most impressive thing about all of this, and I was thinking about this a few minutes ago, was we got ready to build road course cars. We built chassis over the winter, and it wasn't the crew chiefs that all of a sudden decided, hey, we really got to get on this road course thing. We think that we can win out there. It was the other people at the shop, the Aero group, and all the other guys that started pushing this thing forward, and it almost took a few weeks to realize, like, man, these guys are on it. They want to go out there and they want to run good, and so it really comes down to how much hard work went into it at the shop. Those guys worked and worked and worked to build the best cars that we could bring out here, and I think it showed all weekend. As far as the stage racing part, man, it's tough. You look at it every which way you can look at it. Every night this week, it's been trying to figure out what's the right thing to do. How many tires do we have laying in the pits? When should we pit? When should we not? Do we go after the playoff points in the first stage, or do we not? Or do we pit early? And it's hard. And like I said, sometimes it's luck too. So, but when you have a fast car, it fixes a lot of problems, and that really comes down to everybody at the shop.
Jerry
Jordan, KickinTires.net and PRN. Tony. When you see your teams do well, and I know you're busy with Eldora and you're driving all over the place, do you miss over here in the Cup Series with us doing this?
Why? I'm still here. What am I missing? So I'm not missing anything. I'm here. I get the best of both worlds now. I mean, I get to go to my track more. I get to race my dirt cars more, and I still get to be a part of this. So I don't know how it could really be any better for me. I think I'm in the perfect scenario for myself right now.
CJ Peterson, SF Bay. Tony, you've won here several times, and now you're a winner as an owner. What about this track seems to bring out the best, not only in you, but your team?
Well, I was in the Mobil 1 suite early this morning. I said this is honestly, in my opinion, one of the most physical tracks that we run all year as a driver, because there's, normally it's hot, and then on top of that, you've got a surface that is worn out, which makes it actually fun, because it's not just about track position all the time. I mean, you have to take care of your tires. You have to be smart. You can't just be an aggressive driver and win at Sonoma. You have to be a smart race car driver and win out here. So, and we got drivers that have that capability of being all that at the same time, and that's what it takes. So, a track like this is, it's one that there's a million things that can go wrong, and a very small amount of things that can go right and set your day off. So, when you get a win out here, it makes it really special.
Sitting on the pit box, do you use the radio to your drivers, or do you let that stay with the crew chiefs?
Unfortunately, I listen to it. There's way too many voices going on in my head, because I normally have two of the drivers in my head at the same time. So if they're talking at the same time, or the spotters are talking at the same time, it drives me crazy. But it gives you a very good perspective of kind of trends that all of us are fighting, as far as the organization as a whole. I mean, if you hear 3 of the drivers complaining about the same thing, then you kind of make notes that that's something that we're definitely going to have to look at, that seems to be a trend. So, when they're all over the board, then that's, due to particular driving styles and differences in their driving styles. So, but you have to. I mean, that's part of the fun of being on the pit box. I can sit at home and watch it on TV and see the same thing, if not more. So, being able to hear the strategy from the crew chief and the driver, and kind of watching the monitor and being able to look at the lap times and the chart to see what the trend of the lap times are doing is something that's real important to me, of knowing what's going on.
Any additional questions? CJ?
CJ Peterson, SFA. Rodney, I know you don't like seeing, competitors, having to drop out of the race, but, seeing Truex running strong all day and then having some problems towards the end of that race, how much do you think that benefited your team towards the end of there?
Well, you talking about before or after? He said, "Tell Harvick to kiss my ass." So after he said that, I don't think he was going to win anyway. So, but we didn't have a very good car that run before. We made some adjustments, and the car was a lot better the last run. So, but yeah, that's all.
Well, gentlemen, congratulations on the victory today, and good luck next week at Daytona International Speedway. If I could have your attention here in the Media Center, we will continue on with today's winners press conference for the Toyota Save Mart 350 in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. And we're joined by our winner, Kevin Harvick, driver of the number 4 Mobil 1 Ford for Stewart Haas Racing. Pulled off the weekend sweep, your 4th win now at Sonoma Raceway, and your 2nd this weekend. Walk us through your thoughts in those closing laps.
Yeah, we doubled our total in one weekend. So, but we definitely checked the most important one off, and that's definitely in the Cup Series. For me, it's been a lot of close calls, and I think today, with the car that we had all weekend, I felt like our car was fast enough to try to put ourselves in position towards the end of the race to have a chance to win. So we gave up those. I think we were 2nd and 4th in the stages to come in and pit to try to win the race. I felt like that was definitely the right call. And then there at the end of the race, we were able to get to the end, saving the rear tires and still pulling away. So it was a great weekend, and you just got to cherish the weekends when they're like this, because they don't always go as smooth as this one did. So it's nice to finally have that.
Okay. We'll open the floor for questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. We'll start over here.
Hull, Oak Grove citizen. I am curious whether you feel more beat up after today's race, or your car is more beat up.
Definitely my car. I feel good. So it's I was actually a little nervous about that, running both races. I'm not yet the spring chicken anymore, so I feel probably better than I did only running one race, just because you're moving all day on Saturday and practicing all day on Friday. So it's been a lot of fun, and car's got the nose and both sides and both front fenders beat off of it, and looks just how it should after a Sonoma race. So it was a fun day.
CJ
Peterson, SFA. Seems like it's been an eternity since we've seen you up here last. How important was that, stretch of green laps going towards the end, considering the races was peppered with cautions before that?
Yeah, I'm assuming it's almost been 24 hours since you've seen me. So yeah, it's what was your question?
How important was that stretch towards the end?
Yeah. I think as you look at the end of the race, Rodney's telling me to save gas and save the tires, and I felt like I was already doing that, and they were starting to make me a little bit worried, actually, as we kept talking about it, and they kept telling me to save gas. I started to think that maybe we had either not got it all the way full or had pitted a little bit sooner than maybe we needed to. But it was definitely just a situation where we were in control of the race and didn't need to use more rear tire than we needed to get to the end. So we were able to manage the car really after the 78 fell out. I felt like he was the guy that we were going to have to race all the way to the end. He had a great car, and once he fell out, I felt like we were 100% in control of the race, no matter what had happened, whether it was old tires or new tires. We definitely, I felt like we had the best car at that particular point once he was gone.
We'll go upstairs to the press box.
Brant James, USA Today Sports. For Kevin, were your win totals the last several years from enough to keep you from worrying and thinking that a win was going to come, or was time getting short and maybe a little anxiety?
I can say this now, but I had mixed emotions about how the year was going to go, just because of the fact that we had a lot on our plate to switch over, and I think as we started the year, we had good performance, and we went through a little bit of a spell where it wasn't as good as the first 3 or 4 weeks, and then the last month and a half has been really good. So it's a big undertaking, and one day I think when we get done with this year, I think everybody will actually learn of all the details of all the things that it took to get to this particular point. But it's a huge undertaking. And I think it says a lot about our people at Stewart Haas Racing. But I felt like I knew we were going to win again, just for the fact that our cars were running good. Pocono and Michigan, our cars were fast. The last couple weeks and all weekend here this weekend. So our cars have been good. Our speedway cars have been good. I felt like every race. Well, not every race, but I felt like 3 or 4 races where we had the best cars, we wrecked out and, had the speeding penalty at Atlanta after leading 300 some laps. So it's been a good year. We just hadn't been to victory lane, and today it all went our way, and hopefully we've gotten all that bad luck out of the way, and we can, enjoy days like this where it all goes our way and capitalize on the fastest car.
We'll keep it upstairs.
Kevin, Derek Wilson from Marinscope Newspapers. You mentioned you're no spring chicken anymore, but are you at the point where you're reflecting more on your career and how you developed as a kid from Bakersfield?
I think so, and I think yesterday was a huge example for that. I definitely want to get more involved in making sure that West Coast racing is healthy and where it needs to be, and I think in doing that, it's just like Will Rogers, who finished second yesterday. He's a great young talent who's trying to find his way in circle track racing, a great road racer, and trying to cut his teeth in doing the things that he's doing in the K&N West Series. So, a lot of times people look east, and I've been in that position where everybody looked east, and all of a sudden they looked west, and for a long time, all the new talent was coming out of the West Coast, and I'd love to see some of those kids get plucked up, and I know Gilliland is on his way, but there's a lot of good racers, and if we can draw some attention to the West Series and some of these racetracks to kind of rekindle that fire from a short track standpoint, from a series standpoint, that's really going to be one of my focuses, as I go through the next few years.
We'll come back downstairs to Davey.
Davey Siegel, frontstretch.com. Kevin, congratulations on the win. I asked you yesterday about the K&N race, and you said that you did it for the main reason of just to have fun, but also turning laps in the car all weekend. It couldn't have hurt your performance today. Could you take anything from being in another car, even though it's a different body, less horsepower, et cetera, that you took away from this weekend racing in the K&N series that you applied today?
Yeah, it kept me from sitting around and trying to find something to do on Saturday. I think that was the biggest thing. I'm sitting around, and there's guys out here making laps and learning things, and I think that's the most important thing, is to never take for granted that you have to try to expand your knowledge and keep an open mind to making things better. And Rodney and I sat down in the winter and said, all right, how are we going to make our road race program better? And one of the things that came up was I needed to make myself better. And, I felt like in order to win some of these races, we needed to do some things different. And the K&N race was one of those races. In order to get some more seat time on Saturday, we're going to run the Xfinity race at Watkins Glen. That seat time and that time in the car is definitely something that we're trying to focus on. And whether I learn anything, it can't hurt to make laps. It's not going to be the same shifting pattern. It's not going to be the same horsepower. It's not going to be the same handling. But the thought processes are definitely different when you're that busy on a weekend. And for me, those thought processes are a good thing, because I constantly think about what's going on, because you're so busy on Friday and then you wind up so busy on Saturday, and obviously Sunday is what it is. But and I think that thought process of having a car that drives different on bias ply tires, that shifts different, really makes me think about not only that car, but it makes me think about the next car, because they're so 180 degrees different on how you shift and the things that you do, that you have to sit down and mentally think about what the hell you're doing. So it's, you know, that part has been good for me, and it seems like the busier I am, you know, it seems like the better we do. So, you know, the folks from Stewart Haas were very good in, you know, they built the transmission and put my seat in the car, and the rest of it was done by a West Coast team with Jerry Pitts and Jefferson boys putting the car on the track. So it definitely didn't hurt anything.
Wildman, Benicia Herald, and Martinez News-Gazette. Tony was talking about how good it is to have a team of 4 that actually all could have ended up top 10. And, of course, toward the end, Clint was coming in pretty strong. Did you have any worries? And you did have that nice, about 8-second plus stretch. Were you able to relax, or did you worry about him coming up?
Well, that's a normal day for Clint. You know, he walks that way too. He'll walk and then he'll spin around in circles, and then he'll walk in a different direction. He'll spin around in circles. So today was just a normal day for Clint. So he's definitely a you know, a little scatterbrained, but he's really good here. And I knew when we came here that I had somebody, and along with Kurt as well, and even Danica, you know, she definitely ran well this weekend. But you know, Kurt and Clint are very good road racers, and obviously have won here. And I knew coming here that I had a lot of information that I could lean on, and really all through practice, you know, the throttle traces and brake traces and all the things that were going on. Kurt was a big help last year, and bringing Clint on board. And that's really what having multiple car teams is all about. And when you have 2 guys that are good at what they do, that pushes you. And then you're good at what you do, that pushes them. And that's really the point of the whole thing, is to, you know, to fast track advancing, trying to make things better. And when you look at our situation going to Ford and you know, having some ups and downs and having a lot of things that you don't know about and having to learn, and sure, we have great people, but you know, those weekends where one guy does one thing and one guy hits on another thing, and all of a sudden it goes into a different direction. So it's good to have that progression with guys that are that good.
Has always been a very aggressive track. Now with the new stage rules, was it even more crazy out there?
You know, I don't think it was any more crazy than it has been. You know, I think that the part that makes it really crazy is when you get a bunch of late cautions, because once that first caution falls with 20 inside the 20-lap window, just seems like it just turns into a demolition derby, and we didn't have that today. But the stage races were very aggressive at the beginning of the race, and Rodney and I had talked before the race to try to put ourselves in position to win. You know, I think, you know, some stage points here and there are great, but we felt like today we had a car that was capable of winning the race, and we needed to put ourselves in position to try to win. So we gave up. I think we were running 2nd and 4th or 5th in those first 2 stages, and gave up those points to try to put ourselves in position. And then when the 78 fell out, I felt like we were in control of the race, you know, at that particular point. So we just had to see where it went, and it went green, and we were able to manage our car and you know, not have to do anything but take care of it towards the end. So it was definitely fun to finally have it all work your way, and not have something that you had happen at the end of the race and just shake your head and walk out of here. It was nice to have it all go right, have a fast car, have the right strategy, and pull into victory lane. And I feel like, you know, obviously the team has proven over and over that we can do that. About the time you think you have us down, we come back and do something good. So it's a good bunch of guys, and everybody gets along well, and everybody at the shop has just been busting their tails to get better every week, and victory lane definitely makes everybody happy.
Bob Parker, ESPN. I have 2. The first is.
I didn't even know you were here, Bob.
What?
I didn't even know you were here.
You didn't?
No, it's a long ways from home.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys have the budget to be here this week.
Yeah.
Stumped him.
Did you feel? Did the organization need to win? You guys started the year with the Daytona 500 and haven't won yet since then.
Well, I think winning makes everything better. You know, I think it definitely puts takes a lot of pressure off of us. You know, to not have to answer those questions anymore. I don't even know how many weeks we've raced. How many weeks have we raced, Bob?
This is
16 weeks. All right. Well, we've definitely been in contention to win a few of them. I felt like, obviously Atlanta, Daytona, Talladega, some of those racetracks we crashed out and had the penalty and just didn't all work out. But we've been through good stretches and bad stretches, and I think that's the great part about our team. We know we're capable of winning races at any type of racetrack, and confident in each other and what we do. And there's still a lot of room for growth. There's still a lot of things we don't know about our cars that we learn on a weekly basis, and that's that's the fun part, is to know the upside potential to this whole deal. And once we get it all ironed out, and how great everybody has been from not only Stewart Haas Racing but Ford in putting all this together, I feel like we have way more room to grow than most any team in the garage, because there's so many new things for us and new people, and still trying to work all the details out. We have all the big pieces, and that's the great thing about Tony and Gene, is we have all the big pieces. It's up to us to squeeze the details out of everything from every department.
About trying to improve the road course program. Why was that important, or where did it rank when you're transitioning to Ford? You have all these changes.
Well, it all started when they talk about putting a road race in the chase. When you put that Roval in, that all of a sudden it becomes. I'm not saying that this race is not important and Watkins Glen is not important, because now that with the stages and the playoff points and all those things, but when you talk about it being in the chase, you've got to have it right. And I think for me, that was kind of like, all right, you've got to do something yourself to get better. I know the team is going to do everything that they have to do, and for Rodney and myself, we just sat down and tried to come up with a plan, and felt like the on-track stuff was going to be better than the simulator, and we put a plan together, and everybody was able to put the sponsorship together with the Fields folks, to come and run the K&N race and run the Xfinity race in Watkins Glen. And not only does it help us, it brings a new sponsor into the sport who's happy to be here. And everybody from Stewart Haas was very supportive, and we put it on the track and seeing the benefits from it.
We're going to go back upstairs.
Hey, Kevin, Tom Jensen, FoxSports.com. Congratulations on your win. Now that you and Kurt are both in, is there anything the team can or will do differently to ensure that Clint gets in, because he's right on the bubble?
Yeah, we'll do everything we can. We need as many cars as we can in that chase. And Clint has run well. He's had a little bit of bad luck, and obviously today, sounds like he spun out twice, once, whatever, at least once. I saw him do his 360 in my mirror one time and keep going. But he, those guys have run good enough to deserve to be in the chase, and we'll do everything we can to get them in there, and I think that's important to the company, and I think they'll make that happen.
CJ, last question. Make it a good one.
You said yesterday after winning the K&N race.
That was an eternity. Isn't that what you said?
That it was.
Yeah.
You said you weren't able to enjoy, being in wine country now because you had work and whatnot. But now that all your work is
wine anyway. I like beer.
Obviously, Busch out there. But that was my question: are you going to be able to enjoy a little bit of this wine country now that you've had a stellar work weekend?
Yeah, I'm going to load the ice chest full of Busch beer, and I'm going to go back to the airport and fly to Wyoming. But I love being in California. It's been a great weekend here at the racetrack, and I think as you look at, I have a lot of friends who have come to the race that live in California, and every year they come up here, and so we've been able to enjoy a lot of time at the Caneros Inn, who obviously is a big supporter of the race yesterday. So it's a great place to kind of lay our heads down and catch up with some great friends, and it's been a great weekend. So I enjoy coming here, but I also am ready to get back to home and see my little buddy.
Kevin, congratulations. I'll let you get out of here so you can enjoy a nice ice cold one. Good luck next week in Daytona.